Welcome to a look at the new sheep system on Seasons 19 on console with me, MrSealyp. Okay then, ladies and gents, with Seasons upon us we have got all the various different animals. I've already looked at chickens. We're going to be looking at sheep in this episode. There are 4 breeds of sheep we've got now in game. I've set up 5 I think. 5 sheep pens. Now, one thing I will say is, as part of the new Seasons, actually I've just realised what's turned itself off, which is a bit odd. My interactive zone markers, there we go, just gives you a better indication of where they need to be placed. As part of the animals on Seasons now, if we go into the menu here and we go across to our pens, go into animal pens under placeables and right to the end, and you have water pumps. That's part of Seasons. The water pump is 5,000 to place. Seems like a lot of money. I don't know if it's going to let me place 2. It might do, actually. Now, the water pump needs to be placed with those pipes I have found, or just personally I've found. You may find something different, but I have found those pipes need to be as close to the trough, the unload point, as possible, like so. And the purpose of those pumps is to make sure that the water trough never runs out of water. With Seasons on now, your animals can die. Your animals can die if they run out of feed and water. I don't know if it's one or the other or both, but they can die. To prevent your water running out, you can place a pump. So I've got 2. I've got another one placed there at the moment, but let's come out of there. There's a little bit of a pump whirring noise, and as you can see there's water in the trough, and what happens is every so often it reruns a kind of algorithm that checks the trough. If the trough looks like it's running down or running empty, it'll put some in. Now this will not fill the trough. If you're expecting it to fill the trough up, it won't. It will just put enough in to make sure they don't run out of water, whatever you put in there. I think it works the same for the cows, it works the same for the pigs. You can place those pumps. Now I have placed 1 pump at each of my sheep pens. Now for this test I'm just using the standard Giants in-game sheep pens. The last sheep pen is going to be slightly different, and I'll explain why. So what we'll do, we'll go around to the sides here to where we can buy our sheep. We'll look at the different breeds, and then we'll get the ball rolling. So we have got Dorset, Merino, Suffolk and Dorper. I'm going to put Dorset in this first one. Dorset is a large breed of sheep. It grows moderately fast, it has modest wool production and requires a medium amount of feed as an adult. It is relatively prolific, that means it will reproduce fairly efficiently, and good for 25 to 40 kilogram, 50 to 85 pound lambs. They're 486 to buy, 1 year old, 143 pounds in weight. Now, like with the cows, they're kind of already artificially inseminated, so they should, there are no rams, there's nothing to put in here with them, so they should produce young after a period of time anyway. I'm going to put 20 in, like so. There is a fee for delivery, unlike the chickens, there is no fee. So we'll press confirm. We've got our 20 in there. I'm going to be feeding them grass. Now what we can do, we'll have a look in this menu now and go into the animals menu. So we'll scroll across and we can look at our first sheep pasture, which is this one down there. We've got our Dorpers in there. Our Dorsets, sorry. The water pump already says, it says there cleanliness, a water pump. If you've placed the water pump, it will say water pump in brackets, 25 litres, so there will be water in there. Now it does also say further down, estimated food required, 22,113 litres per year. Weight of the animals, 143 pounds. Next animal in, and at the moment that is blank because they're not producing. As you can see, they are numbered from 1 up because they're my first 20 I've bought, so you can keep a track on which particular one it might be. As you get older ones, you might want to sell them off and keep the young ones, or it's entirely up to you how you want to go about doing this. So we're going to be looking at the wool production, which ones give you better wool production, faster rates, which ones produce faster. That's kind of the point. So we're going to move on to the next pasture and the next one and the next one. We're going to put 20 in each. So the next one we're going to put merinos. Now the merino is a medium breed. It's used for wool production. It grows slowly. It's not very prolific, so you're not going to get a lot of young from these. But it doesn't require a lot of feed as an adult. So these ones should be less needy on the feed front. But you're not going to get a huge amount of offspring. It does say you're going to get. It's used for wool production, so we should get fairly decent wool. So. Confirm. Go into my animal menu. I've got 20 in there. They're all looking good. Water pump again, so 25 litres. They've got water in there. Estimated food required 17,526 litres per year. So they're requiring less than the Dorsets are. The Merinos don't look like they're going to be needing as much. But I did find with the chickens, those figures, it didn't seem to match up. But we'll see how we get on. That's the whole point. Next up, we've got the Suffolks. The Suffolk is a large breed of sheep that grows extremely fast. It produces a modest amount of wool, requires a lot of feed as an adult, is prolific and slow maturing, so it should get a lot of young from these. So, confirm, we should have 20 unless I messed that up. Nope, we've got 20 in there. Again, water pump's doing its job. Estimated food required 25,307, so they need a fair bit of food over the course of the year. Not massively more than the others, and obviously that will increase depending on the amount of sheep you have in your pasture. I'm only running at 20, and I would imagine if I ran at... I suppose I could do double, couldn't I? I'm just thinking to get the ball rolling on wool production faster, maybe. We'll stick at 20 for the time being. We'll see how we go. Right, next pasture. So this one's going to have the Dorpers in. Now the Dorpers are different. This is a medium-sized breed that grows fast but produces no wool. Very prolific and fast maturing, requires little feed as an adult. So you're going to get offspring from these, and it does say very prolific, so I'm assuming quite a lot of offspring, but you're not going to get wool, so there shouldn't be any wool pellets appearing on these. It does say produces no wool. So if you're looking for wool, don't get the Dorpers. If you're looking for offspring, potentially, that's what we're going to find out, we should get plenty of offspring. So again, we'll check our menu. We've got 20 in there. Our Dorpers are in. Looking good. Now, I'm going to put feed in all of the troughs on these ones, but the last one I'm not going to, because what should happen on seasons, if you've got a pasture with grass in it, and you don't put feed in the feed trough, every so often the algorithm runs and it realises there's nothing in here, so it takes it that the animals are eating the grass out of the pasture. That grass will gradually get eaten down. Now there is a balance. A certain amount of animals will eat away on there, and you won't lose any until you get to winter. Then the grass dies off. That's the bit you have to then get some grass in the trough or hay in the trough. So you do need to prepare some over a certain amount, and they will eat everything in there really, really quickly, so you have to be careful. So this one I'm not going to put feed in the trough. We're going to see how it works with regards to them eating the grass out of the pasture that's inside it. Doesn't matter which ones I put in. I think I'll just go straight back to the start again. We'll put Dorsets in, I think. Check our last one. 20 Dorsets. Water pump's okay. Like I say, I'm not going to put feed in there. My only concern is the grass that's in there at the moment. Is it at a level they can eat? It should be. I don't want to go through the day and into the night and find some die because it hasn't run through the cycle. As far as I understood it, the algorithm is supposed to run like every 15 minutes or so. Game time or real time, I'm not sure at the moment, but that's what we'll keep an eye on. So what I'm going to do now is I've got a trailer with a load of grass in it. Now bearing in mind as well with seasons, you need to store your grass or grass bales. You're better off, in all honesty, doing hay, because your grass, no matter where you put it, will gradually degrade and gradually disappear. If I left this in this trailer overnight, I will lose a load. So you need to really store it, and if you're going to do that and you want something that's a bit more longevity, you probably want to do hay and put it into a barn as bales, or put it into forage storage or something like that. That's kind of the option. Fill each one up, and then what we'll do, we'll skip ahead. I'm running 3-day seasons at the moment. It is suggested that you run 6 or 9, and and they do suggest, I think on, is it 9-day seasons, that you turn the speed up to ×15, and it gives you a more realistic kind of roll through the seasons and how much work you can get done and that kind of thing. So potentially, but I'm running 3 only because on console, if I was running 9-day seasons, to skip through 9 days, it was going to take forever to get through any of the seasons. So the only downside to doing it that way is that things can happen too quickly, and you can end up with, you know, animals dying on you or whatever because you weren't kind of up with everything. So that's all the feed in. We'll keep an eye on that. The water won't be a problem with the pumps installed. The water should be fine. We've got our 4 breeds and we've got the one on the end. Like I say, I'm not putting feed in the end trough. We'll see what happens with that one. So what I'm going to do now is I'll see you in a bit. I'll see you, what we're late spring now, so I'll see you early summer. We'll see if there's been any change. If there hasn't, we'll skip through, and we'll keep skipping through until we get some change. That's what we're looking for. We're looking at wool production, we're looking at reproduction of animals, and obviously how much feed they're taking and whether or not they will eat the grass out of here because there's nothing in the trough. That's what we're looking for. Okay, first thing to note then, we have gone through 1 day into the next, which is the equivalent of a month if you look at it in terms of 3-day cycles. All of my other pens are fine. They need cleaning out, so I'm going to have to get a vehicle with a bucket or something to clean out the feed areas, which is fine. But overnight I had 4 sheep die in this end pasture. So the thing of them eating the grass and it rolling over and filling up the trough if there's nothing in the feed trough didn't seem to work overnight. Now I only lost 4, I didn't lose all of them, so I'm wondering whether or not that's going to kick in at some point. The grass has grown in each of the pastures, so it potentially they'll only start eating it when it's fully grown, maybe. I don't know, it's a bit odd. There's nothing in the trough. If I look in here, we go up to the top sheep pasture, I'm down to 16 animals. There's still nothing in the food trough. The others, the cleanliness is down a little bit on each of them. More so with the merinos. Closely followed by the Dorsets. But we have no wool production yet. We have no new births yet. So we'll keep going and see how we go on. I'm going to clean up the feed areas. I'm going to leave that a little bit longer and see if that clicks over and something changes, because if something does, then we'll document it. But I would say what you need to do for at least your first day is make sure there's something in there. Okay, a change has occurred. My end pasture, I've given all the others, they've all been cleaned, but I haven't given them any more feed yet. I was just about to do that. This end one, I haven't given them any feed, and we now have feed in the food trough. If we look at the top one, our pasture with 16 in, we've now got 2,284 litres. That has come from the pasture. That has not come from me. So I've gone into the second day. It's only a few hours after I last saw you, and it has automatically done it. But interestingly, it seems to have automatically done it for the other pens as well, because the other pens, 2 or 3 of them were on orange as far as feed went, as well as cleanliness. I've cleaned them, but they all of them seem to now have added more back in again. So I haven't actually had to give them any feed, which is an interesting one. I am going to top them all up, but the one that's got 16 sheep, and I'm going to leave it as 16 as well, because that's what I lost. That's kind of part and parcel. But we're going to keep an eye on that, because when we get to the winter months and all the grass dies in this field, in the pasture, then obviously that's not going to refill itself, and we are going to need to give them grass. But that's the one we're going to keep an eye on. So I'm going to give the rest of them some feed now, fill up their troughs, and we shall continue. It is late summer. We started off late spring, so we've gone through 3 months since the very start. This end pasture that I haven't been putting feed in has stopped replenishing itself. Now, they haven't used all the grass in here, but it's certainly not as lush as it is in these ones. Now, I'm assuming as we move into winter, the grass is going to start to die off anyway. If we look into this menu, over the last couple of days, it's replenished itself and it's been in the green. It's gradually dropping and dropping and dropping. So I'm worried if I don't put any grass in now, overnight that could go completely and I could have more sheep in that pasture die. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some grass in that one. I wasn't going to, but this is also to see how long can it go. If you start at the beginning of the year, as the grass starts to grow, you're obviously going to get further and further through. But as we hit those winter months and the grass stops growing and eventually it dies out completely, you are going to need to give them grass or hay. So I think I'm at that point now with this end pasture. Still no births, still no wool. So we're going to keep on plugging away. I'm going to give them some feed and I'll see you again, well, whenever. It's early autumn. Did I say after summer came winter? I meant autumn. I don't know why. Weirdly, that end pasture that replenishes itself, I haven't been given it today, it replenished itself. I don't understand. So I gave them grass last night just in case. Today, it scrolled through past, I think it's about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and it replenished itself from the grass in the pasture. I don't know why it didn't the day before, but we have had a bit of a change. We have no new births yet. We have no wool either, but if we look across on the right hand side and we scroll up and down the animals, we have got some of our animals saying next animal in 0.4 years. It's a little way off, not all of them, but some of them are saying it. In each of the pastures we've got the same thing. Some of the animals are saying 0.4 years the next animal, so we are getting some movement. We haven't had any new births yet, but it is showing that we are going to start getting some at some point soon. Possibly late autumn then. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, maybe. So again, I'll see you in a moment, in a month, in 2 months, however long it takes until we get something else changes that is worthy of note. Just to let you know, the feed that's in the feed troughs, according to Realismus and their information, the feed in the feed troughs now with seasons on will only last 2 days, so you do need to be feeding your animals regularly. Unlike the 10 days you can go, and it used to be like 6 or whatever it was, it's only 2 with seasons on, and that seems to be bearing out fairly accurately with the sheep. So on the second day of each cycle you probably do need to put some feed in, but there we go. Unless of course you are just using what's in the pasture, in which case I don't seem to be having too much of a problem. Okay, it's early winter. We are 7 months into our cycle from when we first started in late spring. So we're finally at a point where, apart from that one blip, that one peculiar day or month, depending on how you look at the cycles, all of the sheep pens now, the grass is going. We are in winter, so it's going to start going. This hasn't replenished today, so unless this is another blip, which I don't think it is now, I think once we're into winter the grass is going to start dying off. We need to start giving these animals some feed. So what you can do is, I've been feeding these every day, but realistically I haven't needed to. If I'd have just put a little bit in each of these troughs on the first day, exactly like I should have done really with this one, and I wouldn't have lost those 4, I haven't had to put anything into this trough or this pasture other than that one blip, which was a weird day. I don't know what happened. So you're going to have to keep an eye on them. You can't just take it as read it's going to be fine. And I think that's another one of those things with seasons, is the unpredictability. You cannot assume anything. You can't think it'll be fine or just leave them. You just can't. You've got to keep monitoring them. So I didn't need to keep replenishing these. I could have got away with them just eating the grass. So that was kind of what this end one was about. So what I'm going to do then is give them some grass. All the others are fine. We are, according to everything on here, with some of these animals, we are 0.1 years off of our next animal. So the next day, next cycle, midwinter, we should get some births. And what we'll also see, if we go across now, we've got a whole mixture. We've got some saying 0.2, some saying 0.4, some saying 0.3, some saying 0.1. So the cycle has now started. We haven't had a new birth yet, but 7 months in, we've got animals that are at all different stages within those cycles. Plus, the animals are all gaining weight. Not huge amounts, but they are all gaining weight. If we look at our Dorsets from the start, they were £143, they're £149 now. Our Merinos started off at £110, they're now £119 in weight. Our Suffolks started at £154, they're now £172 in weight. And our Dorpers started off at 132, they're now 137. They don't seem to be growing as rapidly as I thought they would, but aren't they the ones that said at the start they're quite slow maturing? So that's probably why they're not putting a huge amount of weight on. But they are all putting weight on, and we are close to our first births. So hopefully late midwinter we should have our first births. Still no wool though, but I suppose if we're looking at a yearly cycle, they don't produce wool all year, only when they're shorn is when you would get wool. So I suppose we're looking at that yearly cycle. If you're expecting a continual flow of wool, like I say, we're 7 months in, we haven't got anything yet, but at some point we're going to start getting some. Right then, it's late winter, we are 9 months in, and what are we looking at? Well, we've got some new births. If we go down our pastures, our Dorsets, which are considered to be fairly prolific, we've had 4 new births. We've got some that are saying 0.0, 0.1, 2, 3, all the way through now. So we're going to get some more of those soon. They all need cleaning out. They also need feeding. Our Merinos, which say not prolific, have also given us 4. Our Suffolks, which say prolific, have given us 7 new births so far. Our Dorpers, who are also, it says very prolific, have also given us 7. And our Dorsets in the end one, we have still had 4 births, but we would, no, haven't we? We've had 6, because we were down to 16. How weird is that? We've had more births with the Dorsets, which aren't prolific. Anyway, oh no, actually no, 7. Well, it's not bad though. Now, as far as births go, let's have a look at, let's go on to here, because what we need to check is our newborns, and they do say newborn, weight 12 pound, not fertile, but we have got some males. That's interesting. Excuse me, that was something I missed on the excuse me, what did I miss it on? On the chickens, we had male and female births. Now, obviously there are no rams in this game, so it's not like even if these grow up, but they're not going to give birth, they're not going to become fertile, they can't because they're males. So you can fatten them up and you can sell them as an excess animal, which is fine. They're going to get older and you'll be able to sell them off. But they're not going to reproduce. So if you obviously want more animals, you want the females. But you can keep them, you can fatten them up, and then obviously yeah, that's really cool. I think will be the same on, let's check out our Dorsets. Yeah, our Dorset new births. Newborn 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all females at the moment on our Dorsets. Our Merinos, we have got some males and we've got some females. So again, yeah, the males you can grow, but and then sell them off as excess animals, but they're not going to give you any young. So I suppose what you can do is keep the females, sell off the males, and you can also sell off the older females. I do wonder if we get to a point with the older ones, and I don't know how far we're going to have to go through this, whether they stop producing at a certain point, because they stay at mature. How old do they get before, or do they just keep going? I mean, I really don't know. I dread to think how far through I'd have to go on this to find out. But on all of them, we still have no wool. So we need to keep going until we get wool. We'll see how many animals we get. I'm going to give them some more feed as well, because obviously the more we've got in each pen, the more feed they're going to be requiring. Let's crack on. It's early spring and we've had snow. We've also got wool. Wool production has begun. We are 10 months through our cycle. 10 months before we started to get some wool. We've also had new births. There's snow on the ground. It's all very exciting. They're definitely going to need to be fed now. So, what we need to be thinking about is, let's have a look, shall we? They're going to need to be cleaned out. They're going to need to be fed. But our Dorsets in our first one, we're up to 36 animals now, and they are still going, which is wonderful. We've got 375 litres of wool from them. Our next pasture, our Merinos, we've got 32 animals, so less animals, but we've got 1,000 litres of wool. So they are, at the moment, the most prolific at wool production, the merinos. So if you're looking for wool production and a trade-off, wool and young, that's not bad. The next one up, we get our Suffolks. Our Suffolks are up to 37 animals, which is great. Wool production 504. So not as much wool as the merinos, but not bad. Our Dorpers, no wool. You don't get any wool whatsoever from Dorpers, but they are supposed to be very prolific with bursts. Now, they are the highest at the moment with 40. But what you've got to argue is no production of wool, yet my Suffolks and my Dorsets aren't far off the same reproduction rate at the moment, whether the Dorpers are going to streak ahead or something. But if you want a trade-off, your Suffolks, you're getting good production and you're getting wool. Not as much wool, obviously, as the merinos, but not bad. Not bad at all. So we're getting a bit of everything now, which is great. We're going to keep pinging away. See how much wool we get. I'm going to feed them, and I'm going to clean out their feed areas, because that needs doing. Although I'm worried I'm going to get snow caught up in here, aren't I? Yes, I am, aren't I? Okay. Well, we'll feed them anyway. Regardless, they need feeding. The water, I haven't had to worry about the water at all through these entire 10 months with the pumps in. I haven't had to touch the water. They are working absolutely perfectly. So yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty good. Really happy. Yeah, you can already see the wool production here for the merinos. We've almost got a full pallet. Well, it is a full pallet. We'll get the second one in a little while. But we are now getting wool. So if you have been running sheep, or you are going to run sheep, and you've been worried that you're going through an entire year and nothing's happening, it took a good 9 months before our first births, and it took a good 10 months before we got into our... So it doesn't matter what days you're running. If you're running a 3-day, 6-day, 9-day, 12-day cycle, if you look at the months themselves, I think it's done over the year. I mean, that's what we're looking at. So yeah, we shall continue. I'm going to clean them, feed them, and let's plug on. So we're looking when we get to mid-spring. We did start, if you remember, in late spring, so we'll have almost done an entire year. We'll see where we stand at a year and see what's going to happen with these mature animals, and see what they're worth as well, because when we get round to that point, if we have a look here, if we go into our economy setting and look at our sheep, we are at the moment in early, and you can see where it is green. Our Dorsets, Merinos, Suffolks and Dorpers are all worth the most in late spring. That's when they're worth the most money. So what we can do is we can look at our excess over the top now, our oldest animals, and maybe the males as well, and see what they're worth. Are we going to make some... we're going to make money because we've got new births, but we can make the most money around then. So the whole kind of cycle will be complete. The only downside, I suppose, with doing this, you have to be doing a lot of sheep. The wool price will fluctuate, obviously, but because they're only 1,000 litre pallets now as well, you don't get as much for wool. But the fact we can now sell them and potentially make a profit on the animals as well, that all kind of helps out. So yeah, all good. We are mid-spring. The snow is receding, has receded just about. Wool production is continuing apace. I have to say, the Dorsets, not bad at all. The Merinos, wow! Wool production, blimey. If you're looking for wool, go with the Merinos, absolutely. They're outclassing everyone else as far as wool production goes. The Suffolks, which is our next one over, wool production is not amazing, but they are matching the Dorpers for reproduction. If we look here, our Suffolks are sitting at 45 animals. The Dorpers are sitting at 44. The Dorpers don't produce any wool at all. So if you're looking for a good reproduction rate, I'm finding the Suffolks are easily matching the Dorpers, plus you do get the bonus of a bit of wool. Had the Dorpers been, you know, you get no wool, but we were looking at 60, 70 animals, I mean really prolific. It does say on the thing very prolific. Then, you know, if that's the way to go with them. But they're not that much more prolific than the Suffolks, I'm finding. So Our grass is growing again. So what I'm hoping is, in our cycle, that these are going to start taking from the pastures. I'm worried. I don't want to leave it and start losing animals. But bearing in mind, I started off with 20 in each of these. In 3 of these, I've easily doubled what I had in a year, which is pretty good. Whether we're going to make that money back, I mean, we will make that money back, realistically, because we've got wool to sell as well. And at some point, you will go past that point because you've made back your initial investment. Are you going to make mega money? Not when you're doing 20 animals at a time. If you do the bigger pastures and you put a lot more animals in, you're going to get a lot more reproduction, you're going to get a lot more wool, everything will ramp up, everything will scale up, and yes, you can make money out of it. And the fact you can sell your animals back, you're not making a huge loss, you know, whereas on the base game you do make a loss on selling your animals. Potentially you can make a profit on what you bought them for. But that's the thing. I bought mine, stupidly, I bought mine in... where are we? There we go, down the bottom there. I bought mine in late autumn, which is column 3. I mean column 2. I bought mine late autumn. That's when they cost the most. What I should have done was bought them in, where are we looking at? Autumn 1. Or maybe autumn 2. Autumn 1, autumn 2. If I'd have bought them there at their cheapest, I could now be selling them and making a profit. Because I bought them where I was in the game, technically when I come to sell them I'm probably not going to make any money on them, although they are surplus animals, so potentially I'm going to make money but not more than I bought them for. So if you want to kind of go down that route, buy them when they're cheap. I mean, that's kind of simple economics. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Buy them when they're cheap, sell them when they're worth more. I didn't do that, but that's what I should have done, thinking about it. I haven't had any deaths through old age, through maturity yet. As long as I keep feeding them, the water's fine. We are ticking over nicely. What I might do is skip through into late spring. We'll be a year on. We'll see where we stand a year on. The thing is, I could keep going indefinitely. You might find these animals will stay in the mature state for 3-4 years before anything potentially happens to them. I can't keep skipping through a day at a time for 3 years to find out whether that's the case. But I haven't had any deaths since those original ones, and that was down to me not feeding them. So that wasn't down to old age. I would imagine as they get older they probably lose a bit of value maybe, but again I'm not really seeing that at the moment. So yeah, I'll see you in the next cycle and we'll assess then. But it's all working out rather well, I have to say. Quite happy with this. Righty ho then, it is late spring, it's been an entire year. Let's see where we stand. Our Dorsets, we started off with 20 in here. Wool production's okay, not too bad at all. We are up to 44 animals, so we've over doubled what we had, which is fantastic. We bought these for 486 each, and what it's done, I'd saved the game, came out, and I've come back in again. And for some reason it's switched them all round, so it's put all of my original animals at the bottom and it's put all of the newborns at the top, which is fine. But be careful. Again, we've got a lot of males in there. Those males will not reproduce. They will grow and they'll be worth money, but they won't reproduce. So if you've got a much heavier ratio of males to females, bear that in mind. The females, as newborns, are all saying not fertile. If you think about it, when we bought all of our original sheep, you buy them at 1 year old. So don't sell off all of your fertile animals or your birthing animals that are all saying mature and leaving yourself with loads of animals that aren't fertile yet. Be very, very careful. Wait until they are fertile before you sell off the other ones. I think that's probably the best way of looking at it. So these animals now, all of my original ones, are all 2 years old. Do I really want to sell them all off? No, because my other ones aren't fertile yet. You probably need to go through another year cycle before you do that. But what we will do is have a look and see what they're worth. Wow, that's quite scary. Although those are my young. Let's go through to our originals. Right, so we bought these originals at 486. Same sort of time of year, to be fair. They're saying 485 to buy. We're only going to get 405 for them, so we're going to make a loss on them because of the time of year I bought them. Had I bought them at the end of autumn, beginning of winter, when they're at their cheapest, we could be making a profit now on these, potentially. Am I going to sell them off? No, I'm not going to, because obviously I haven't got any breeding animals yet. So we move on to our merinos, and our merinos, wow! Wool production, off the charts. I know I said it before, but wow. With our merinos, we're up to 38, so not as prolific at birth, but amazing at wool production. So if you want wool production, your merinos are the way to go. What are they worth now? Let's have a look. So 2-year-old animals are worth 369. We bought them for 436, so yeah, quite a big drop. And they're now, if you buy them at the moment, they're 434. So yeah, I mean, I bought at the wrong time, let's be honest. Moving on, we have got our Suffolks. Our Suffolks are the ones that are reproducing the best by far. Not producing massive amounts of wool, but they are producing the best. We're up to 50 of those. What are they worth? I mean, like I say, I think we've established the fact I bought at the wrong time. 436 for my 2-year-old ones. We bought them for 503. At the moment, if you buy them, they're 501. So similar sort of price range for the same time of year last year. And then we move on to our Dorpers. Our Dorpers don't produce any wool whatsoever. As far as reproduction goes, they've been okay. They're up there, but to be fair, my Dorsets have produced just as well as the Dorpers have. They haven't been as prolific as promised. So, and because they don't produce any wool, I would honestly say, don't bother with them. They're just not worth it. Unless you're going to get mega money for them when you sell them. But even that, I can't see we're going to make more money than we bought them for. They're worth 389. We bought them for 503. No, we didn't. We bought them for 470. So, yeah, not really. Yeah, and if you buy them now, they're 468. So, yeah, I mean, the Dorpers, I would say, stay well clear of. I really can't see. The Suffolks produce way, way better. And if you want wool production, merinos. That's the way to go. As far as it goes with this pasture, I don't know what happened with all of these. Yesterday, it went past 10:30 in the morning, and all of the pens all took out of the pasture. I didn't have to put any in at all. Today, the time went past 10:30, 11 o'clock. None of them refilled from the pasture. So today, I've had to give them all feed rather than just leave them. So as far as it goes, them replenishing their feed from the pasture, that seems a little bit hit and miss at the moment. But that's just from personal experience. That's what I've found on here. And that's where we kind of stand. That's where I'm going to leave it. You know, buy when they're cheap, sell when they're worth more. As far as breeds go, Suffolk's the way to go for reproduction. Wool production is merinos. And you can do all right out of them. Yeah, not too bad at all. Don't forget the water pump. That's important. And keep an eye on their feed. There we go. Hope you found this useful and informative in some way, shape or form. If you have, give us a like. If you don't subscribe yet, please do. If you want to leave a comment, feel free. And if you want to share this video, then please be my guest. Whatever you should choose to do. Thanks for watching.